Peace, family. Welcome to 19 Keys, Coffee with Keys, where I have some Supermod mushroom coffee, which is a cognitive brain boost. And we sit and we have a real good conversation as I drop some keys. Now, this is the end of the year show. So, congratulations to everybody who did not make it. I mean, to everybody who did make it to the end of the year. And condolences to all those who have loved ones who did not pass over into this next phase. Now we know this is a calendar year, but the calendar year still counts because it marks a time period, right? And so a lot of people be like, the New Year's don't start to spring. That may be fine indeed, but when a large number of people observe something, it's always real. So we have to know that, number one. So if you on YouTube, I need you to do me a favor. Let me know that you can hear me. Put some ones in the chat, and also let me know where you coming in from right now. Now I want this show to be interactive. You're not just looking at me, right? You're sharing your thoughts, your ideas with me, and you get to ask questions at the same time. So for all those that are on joining us from TikTok, make sure that you put a one, a two in the chat if you would like to be invited up to the conversation. Now, no, nothing is off bar for this conversation, right? I want to talk about, you know, the level of mindset that you need, the level of confidence you need, and the level of execution you need for 2026 to succeed, to have a really good number one financial year, but also to have a joyful year, right? How do you go into that year where you have an increased capacity? Because I think that a lot of people think that mental health issues are their problem when really it's a lack of capacity that's their problem, right? That's what most people are dealing with, a capacity problem, not a money problem. You understand me? So I think that that's something that I want to get into. And then I want to get into the thing that's been distracting people, right? We have a scrolling class society. Hold on, let me zoom in a little bit on YouTube. I think I got too much. It's a little, it's a little zoomed out a little bit too much. Told y'all this gonna be a little interactive. We testing stuff, so y'all hear. Uh-huh. Boom. Oh, there we go. So all my YouTubers that want to see what it look like, y'all can tap in on the on my TikTokers want to see what it look like, y'all can tap in on the YouTube side. All right, we coming in loud and clear. That's good. Let me ask you all, what was the most challenging thing for your 2025? Did you make it to your goals? Did you get to the place that you wanted to be or you thought you would arrive at this year? Because at the beginning of last year and at the end of every year, I always do a live. And this live is really giving you game on how to pay your bills going into 2026, the mindset that you need to have to develop, because as the world changes, we have to adapt, right? The flow state activation that you can get into, right? And even if you want to get into some relationship advice, I'm not a relationship guru or nothing like that, but I see a lot of young men and a lot of young women suffering right now because they're not getting approached, they're not having interpersonal connections in person, right? And a lot of that intelligence is dying. Um, and then the other one is, as somebody who has a lot of capabilities, right, which are my gifts, my skills, and my talents. I'm a consultant, right, for a lot of high level network individuals, right, on the mental performance side. And so we have a lot of the top 0.1% of people on the planet Earth that tap into us for a reason, because the elite mindset that we have is one that allows you to perform and activate yourself at a whole new level. Now, a lot of people never reach that level, but they can, right? And one of the ways to start on that journey is to give up the fears that you have of other people's opinions of you. And I believe that this is probably one of the deepest fears that is crippling and disables a lot of people. Another thing that we talk about is time gap as wealth. That is something that's going to be heavy for me as a philosopher, as well as a thought leader, somebody that travels around the world to give lectures all throughout the world. Last year, I was writing down all of my significant events that took place in my life. And there was a lot of them. There was definitely a lot. It was a lot to write down. I kind of just went over, and I think you all should do this as well. But just kind of go over and go into your photo book on Apple, on your iPhone rather, and go start in January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Just go to each and every month and see how much you've done. Then go through your text messages and see who you talk to, right? Look at plans that may have been unfinished, right? Go into your Apple Notes and look at things that you writ down as goals and see how far did you get there. See what those gaps are and really get into this mode of studying yourself. Because if you don't study yourself, right, you're going to fail because life is really about you. It's about how you operate. A lot of times we might study exterior things, but you need to know why you did not succeed, why you did not finish something, why something did not work out. You need to know. And this is one of the most important things. You are the bottleneck to your own success. And one of my goals for 2026 is to not be the bottleneck at all, right? In any project, in any team collaboration, I want my part to be fully done and executed. You know what I'm talking about? I want it all to be done and executed. That's my goal for 2026 is to not be the bottleneck of anything. So what I've been studying is my cognitive alignment. I've developed my own IP when it comes to right understanding the way your own mind works and customizing your life and your reality around that. Because even the interface between me and the machine has to be customized based on the way I work. What I realize is that everything in the world is sort of standardized, right? We have standardized tests, standard technology. Nothing is customized. And so each one of us are different. We got different Myers-Briggs types, intelligence types, cognitive types. Most people only know about their astrology type. So people ask you if you're a Libra, if you're a Taurus, if you're a Virgo, if you're a Cancer, right? If you're a Pisces, is your second moon in Leo, and all these things. But most people don't know anything about their intelligence type, the way their mind works, their cognitive alignment, and whether they're living in misalignment. Yet you're looking to the stars, right, for answers instead of looking internal, and you don't know how your brain works and studying your childhood and things of that nature. Me, I'm a person that looks at those things. I believe that astrology has its place, but not in the way that modern society likes to use it. I think a lot of modern society is into more guesswork and into more standardized charts that fit a lot of people instead of customized work that really gets into understanding the individual. And that's what I'm on. We got a lot of questions that's flying in as well. So I was able to do events in Bermuda, Ghana, Uganda, Amsterdam, London this year. We did coffee house events where we did interactive events for our brand. Supermind, as we've been building this business, has been a lot. Let me sit up in this chair like a king should. You know what I'm talking about? And let me align my camera just a little bit more to the right. Yeah. You about to see the rostrum. All right. All right. Move that up a little bit. Telling y'all getting real time adjustments, man. They said this the year of authenticity, so we just gonna do everything real. It is what it is. Y'all in it with me or you not? I know we ain't got no fancy edits, no fancy music, nothing. It's just raw conversation and building. You know, and I was thinking about this, man. So much on social media nowadays, man. It's just so curated. You know what I'm saying? Everything is just so perfect nowadays. Like, man, I'm gonna say something. You might not like it, fellas. It's like if you see a man that grooms too much. And when I say groom too much, I mean he like getting his eyebrow shaped up. He might even be having a little eyelashes thing going on. He go get his nails done, his toes done. He's spending extra time in the mirror, fluffing, shaving his chest, polishing, waxing. He doing the whole nine. You understand me? Now, if you see that type of man, doesn't mean that he's not heterosexual, but it does mean that he may be extra feminine, and then he might be playing for the other team. I don't know. That's up to him. But I am saying that that's not the most masculine thing. That is feminine. That's feminine hygiene. All of that is feminine. Nobody can argue that, right? Growing up in a militant environment, yes, you are supposed to take care of yourself. We would go in, growing up in a Black Muslim environment, we would have FOI checks. FOI is Fruit of Islam, growing up in a nation of Islam. Early on, you walk in the door and you would show the commander your nails. It will make sure that your nails was clipped, cut. You would have a clean cut. You would have to come in there clean, right? Cleanliness is godliness. So therefore, you would always have to be clean. You would have to be groomed. It is a representation of self-care and discipline. That's not what we're talking about. We talking about, in no disrespect to this, brother, the Ashton Hall level, where you put like banana peels on your face. Like, hey, you taking it to another level now, brother. You taking it to another level. Now I know he does a lot of that for entertainment, you know what I'm saying? But there's some brothers that really out here, you know what I'm saying? Like they feminine care routine is way too much, and their mental care and their masculine care routine is not at all. And what's the masculine care routine? That means you need to be challenging yourself, right? You have to have challenge in your life to stretch yourself, to grow yourself, right? You have to do things that may be painful, that produces progress within your life. You have to develop discipline. You have to be able to go into the shadow of yourself. You have to take responsibility and accountability for who you are, right? And your own emotional intelligence, and not just wallowing in your emotions, trying to share and express every emotional thought that you have. That's not masculine. And I know that the world is telling you, oh, men need to express themselves more. And they absolutely do. But first, learn number one, how to communicate yourself, how to process thoughts, ideas, and feelings, rise above those thoughts, then express, right, the outcome and the results of rising above. We do not utilize the public platforms, right, before you even learn how to communicate to your internal self and understand yourself. And you're getting on there and you're just throwing your feelings out to the world and being emotional as hell and crying and complaining. Nobody wants to hear that. This is the year of competent masculinity. Be competent in your masculinity. That makes you confident, not performance masculinity. All right. This performance masculinity is this fake bravado that everybody got to have. Oh, man, real men do this. Real men don't open the door. Real men don't. Man, shut the hell up with all that real men talk, man. You know what I'm saying? Nobody want to hear all of that. Because any group of men that get together and just talk about how they hate women is a very gay group of men. Matter of fact, it reminded me of the scene I was watching The Stranger Things. It reminded me of the scene where the young boy was coming out and all his friends jumped over there to start hugging him. Now, that scene would have not really happened in the 80s, but that's their show. I'm going to let them conclude it. This is how y'all be looking to me. Y'all in a room and he over there expressing, y'all talk about women that you hate like you coming out. And then all the fellas come and start hugging you. So anyway, man, it's the end of the year, so we cutting up a little bit. So, you know, it is what it is. We're going to talk a little talk. You feel me? We're going to get to it a little bit. Today, I'm just saying what I want to say, getting it off my chest. Hold on, where my TikTok people at? Y'all still there? What the hell? Did TikTok cut off? Let me get TikTok back on here. My bad, y'all. We gonna get TikTok back on here. I think I cut y'all off on by accident. Hey, look like our TikTok products is loading. We about to, hey, 2026, get your TikTok money. Utilize TikTok Shop, utilize AI algorithm. It's a lot to teach. And so I try to next year I'm gonna really go like every video is gonna be super niche because y'all know I can go into many different ways. But today I'm gonna allow a little bit of my neurodivergence to just kind of explore because as a mind who kind of like jumps around, I don't like going on the topic linear, which is why even when I do lectures, I would have a whole entire presentation and then I end up jumping around. We gonna do TikTok again. My bad, y'all. I'm going to re-upload the. I'm going to re-upload it and I'm gonna drop the link again for y'all. And then I'm gonna start letting y'all come in and ask questions. Okay. I think I got to keep it open so it does not throw you off. Yeah, we get color on this live. Probably the great days that we getting color. Yeah, we getting color. You know what I'm talking about? We locked in. TikTok kept cutting off. My bad, y'all. We back on. New link. New link alert. Shout out to all those that's watching from Twitch. Twitch is like a place where I'm going to be consistently at as well. I'm going to just have fun on Twitch. You just get to see a whole different side. YouTube is going to be a place where when I have long form lectures I want to drop, Patreon is going to be a place where I have more interaction with the people, where I'm dropping a lot of proprietary information. So a lot of intellectual property that I'm not ready to give to the public because it's not going to be free. That's when I'm dropping it in Patreon. You know what I mean? Where I feel like some things feel so valuable that I can't give away. And I know people say, give it away. Nope, not doing that 226. You know what I mean? We paywall, subscriptioned up on everything. Now, what you do get for free, enjoy, appreciate, study, understand the gravity of that, because that's my time and my energy. But, and this is for everybody, man, develop you a community, develop you a subscription, right? Know your value and charge your value. Know your value, charge your value. A lot of people think a lot of stuff that I put out, geez, that's so inexpensive. All right. You better get it now because I 100% promise you prices go up. And then you're going to be mad. And then you waited 5 years, never bought nothing. As soon as I rise the price, now you talking about you can't afford it. Now you in the comments complaining. Well, that's on you, brother. You had 5 years to get your money right. You had 5 years to get you a couple $100. You had 5 years to get you a couple $1,000. Now, I know in Trump's America, everything is expensive. But there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Because when I was in Africa, and I'm not making no excuse for capitalism and how high everything is and how they got us fight for survival. You understand me? Like we in that Justin Timberlake movie for time. I get it. That's very real. But when I was in Africa, I learned a lot. You know, and this is why foreigners come into this country and they win so much because they have a different perspective on access and opportunity. You know, when you're in these places and sometimes they barely can afford data on their phone. I'm talking about the simple things. They still paying for data as they're streaming and uploading. Did you know in Africa, in most places in Africa, that the content creators are not getting paid on TikTok? They're not getting paid on Instagram. And a lot of places they're not getting paid on YouTube. Sometimes it's because it's not set up with the companies. There's no way to tax it. There's all these infrastructure issues that the creator economy is not booming in Africa yet because they can't get paid directly through social media. And here you are in a first world country enjoying this internet, just scrolling your life away while other people are literally protesting in the streets, going to their government saying, when can we get this? When can we have just free flowing internet? When can we have Wi-Fi everywhere? When can we have 5G everywhere? When can we monetize like everybody else? Now, for countries that need that, you would think their government would allow that to happen instantly because there are people that are suffering, people that are poor, people that are starving. And then I come to America, and then everybody just ungrateful. Highly capable grown men, broke, not taking no initiative and no action. Why? Because you're so goddamn distracted every single day, and you're feeling sorry for yourself. You're throwing yourself a pity party every day. But see, when I talk about masculine hygiene, it's action. A real man got to just take action. It is what it is. I'm sorry, but ain't nobody gonna come and pat you on the back. You feel me? Ain't nobody gonna come and save you and lift you up and be like, all right, I got you now, man. I'm gonna take care of you. That can happen in the essence of having a really good established community, friend group, right? And having individuals that you can speak to and support you, right? Do you have at least 5 people that are aligned with you in that capacity? Do you have a few people that you can talk to, that you can tell anything and they won't judge you for the things you say or carry that information onto another phone call or behind your back. Because these are the reasons that a lot of men don't speak on things, is because we're afraid that it goes beyond this conversation and then you share it with somebody else. But you have to be able to be authentic enough for people to see you as you are, because if that's your current circumstance, then that's you. If you want the world to see an illusion, then yes, you want them to think that what's happening is not happening. And for those of your friends, those your comrades, your brothers, I'm talking about real ones. I ain't talking about them gossip queens. You know what I'm talking about? If those some real ones, they ain't gonna hit you like that. Hey, bro, I'm struggling. I ain't even got my money right now. Hey, bro, I'm struggling. Girl ain't even doing the thing right now. Hey, bro, I'm struggling. Mental health, man. I've been tripping, depressed. Man, somebody got to be there. They gonna speak with you, listen to you for a little bit, but not listen to you just overtly complain consistently days in a row. A real man ain't gonna let you do that. A girlfriend gonna let you do that, but then she gonna get tired of you too, because now you making her feel unsafe in your capabilities. She unsafe in your arms. That if you can't handle yourself, then how can you handle the protection of the environment for her? So you have to know that the things that you speak on, you need to be improving, and a person don't mind hearing your progress. But if your problems don't come with progress, right, that's when you become somebody else's problem. So now you calling me, bro, I got this stuff going on, bro. I ain't feeling good, bro. Life is not great. Bro, I'm crying right now. Bro, my girl just left me. Bro, I'm ugly. Bro, I don't know what to do. All right. I'm listening to you. That's what's up, black man. Listen. All right, well, let's put together a plan and get us something together then. All right, what your plan is, what you got written down. You feel me? Like, you capable, man. You a whole god out here. How we moving? What's happening? You understand me? What we gonna do next? I'm listening to you, though. You feel me? But if you calling me, I'm the strong friend that's gonna give you strong advice. I'm gonna listen, because I know sometimes a man needs to vent about family, about life. Sometimes we just need somebody to talk to so we don't feel crazy, so we can bounce that back. Somebody that can relate to us, that we respect, you feel me, and still respect us after we communicate. But then that same person needs to be responsible, so that after you finish listening, because you most of the time you call people, you don't really want their advice. No. You just want to hear yourself. So after you hear yourself, and after you say the thing that you're going to do, your next conversation better be about improvement. I'm going to give you one, maybe two. But if it becomes a pattern, you're not going to hear from me three. That's when I'm going to check you. Bro, all right, listen, man, what's going on with you? You know what I'm saying? You keep calling me crying like I'm your therapist. Get your shit together, man. You know what I mean? Is you a god, is you not? Like, what's in you? You feel me? Like, you letting that dog die in you, man. You done turned into a puppy, man. What happened to your fire? Let's figure out a plan. You want to work for me? You want to work for yourself? You understand me? How are you taking action to develop yourself as a man? What you learning right now? Let's talk about ideas and plans and strategies on how you're going to get yourself out of it. Now, navigate through those feelings, rise above those feelings, disconnect from them in the essence of that. Just because you feel something don't mean you have to own the emotion. Just because you think something don't mean you have to own the thought. Detach from the thoughts. Be an observer of self. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Try to pinpoint the root of it, so therefore you don't get stuck in the loop of it. Then we move forward as men. Because a man is his mind. So if a man cannot manage his mind properly, then that's when he has problems. And the real thing that you're suffering from is the lack of awareness, because you don't know why you feel this way. You don't know why this is happening. And as a man, this can destroy us, because we actually have the capability of understanding the why, because we were made logical. We were made with mathematical, analytical mind. We can get to the point to come to a conclusion of something. And once we know the why, we can move forward. That's how we were made. That's how our minds work. So when your mind not working, you don't feel like a man. You say, damn, why can't I figure this out? Why am I stuck? So we ain't having that soft complaining. Again, if you're complaining, you need to train. Because sometimes you might think you need a therapist and you might need the gym. Sometimes you might think you got mental illness and You might just need to get you some money. You broke and you ain't got no time and it's stressing you out because poverty is a disease and capitalism, you understand me, is the one that infects people. It's the virus. A man must know business. A man must know how to communicate. A man must know how to sell. Like we got to get to it because what you're not aware of becomes darkness, and then that darkness becomes entropy. That entropy becomes chaos where you don't have order in your life. And that's really what people are seeking. They're seeking high order in life. And they're trying to figure out, how do I order this life? You might be ADHD, neurodivergent. You understand? Might have a little spectrum of autism sprinkled in there somewhere. You might be gifted and not know it, but you haven't studied yourself long enough to even know yourself. So therefore, you don't know how to operate within this world. Who is your mentor? Every man needs a mentor, even if it's not somebody that you physically know, somebody that you become a disciple of, so that as you're acting like them and asking yourself, what would this person do in this situation, right? You become a disciple of their actions. That becomes your discipline. There's a lot of men that need to stop listening to themselves and listening to a higher self, listening to somebody else better than them. And a lot of, oh, I don't want to, I think I know what I'm doing. But look at your life. If your life got you to where you are, listening to you, then you need external advice. Or at most, you need to sit in stillness and silence. Because when you ask somebody for some advice and you don't take it, that's when you become a problem because you're wasting people's time. And anybody saying you got to learn stuff instantly, but when it start building up for years, no. Think about how you ruining other people's lives by being lazy because you bring down their performance just by them knowing you. How you run other people's lives by bringing negative energy into their day, and you don't even ask that strong friend. You don't even think about what they're going through because they're probably not the type of person that's externally dumping their problems on everybody else because they became strong enough to deal with it themselves. Mm. All right, if you got some questions, man, put a one in the chat. We woke up this morning and we just flowing with it. We woke up this morning. This is end of the year live, man. I appreciate you, Patriot Natasha, man. She dropped a 10 in the chat. You understand me? We got an 8 men in the chat. My brother Mikey say that's real. I appreciate all y'all that's tapping in right now. Yeah. Real love. Put some ones in the chat. You got a question you want to ask. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start letting people tap in. Let me see if more of my brother. I'm gonna go ahead and put the. Now don't be coming in here crazy because I'm gonna cut you off instantly. So ain't even no point of coming in here being stupid. You know what I'm talking about? But there's no such thing as a stupid question unless it's disrespectful. But as long as you're respectful, I can be helpful. All right, man. Let's get started, man. We got who we got in the building? We got Jamie in the building. Futures and Finesse. Stay motivated. These are good names. So we're gonna call on y'all brothers, man. Who wanna go first? Man, walaikum salam, brother. How we feeling? Yes, sir. Happy Savers Day, man. They got to get an early Savers Day blessing. I appreciate that. What's on your mind today, man? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So did you reach that goal? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. No, this is a fact. This is a fact. There's a ceiling to that. Mm. Right. Are you okay? So you trying to double up right now. Typically, when you got a goal, if you go shoot for 50, you would actually probably need to shoot for 100 in order to get to 50, because you would need to start taking massive action. And as you take massive action, you're gonna learn a lot from that. In that, it allows you to make greater leaps. So it's like basically aiming at a bullseye, right? And let's say even if you hit the board, you understand me, in the third layer of the ring, that's your 50. But if you aim for the bullseye, you understand me, you will get better at getting much closer to your target. So you typically have to aim higher than what you're trying to get to. Because what you're saying is that I want to be perfect. So if my goal is 50K, that means I need to do everything perfectly in order to hit that 50. But if your goal is 100, even if you don't do everything perfectly, you can still land at 50, because you're going to think about taking larger actions, right, that have greater consequences, and it's going to produce greater outcomes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you tapping in, brother Jamie, man. I wish you success this year. You know, we got other ways that we're gonna be able to tap in with people as we've set up this inner circle. But assalamu alaikum to the Ak, man. I hope you get 100 and not 50. Now, uh, yeah, inshallah, my mom want to go, so I definitely want to take her this year. Salute to you, Black God. All right, on Twitter or YouTube, this is what we're gonna do as we bring different people in, because I want to get opportunity for different voices to jump in. Um, if you have questions, if we get into a dialogue of a conversation, I want to make sure that we're flowing with it. You feel me? And then in the comments, if y'all feel like somebody is not high level enough, y'all can press 9, and then we're gonna get them out of there. I'm just coming up with this on the fly. But if you like, man, conversation not going to where it need to be going, then y'all press 9 in the chat, and then we go. You feel me? All right. So my brother, stay motivated. Where you at with it? Man, blessings and opportunities. How you doing, good brother, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I had a question. You touched on the point about having a mentor and things like that. So for me, growing up, I didn't have a father back then,
Uh-huh.
and I used to ask myself a question with regard to when I had situations that I was being or whatever or going through experiences. So not knowing my father, my husband, I'm just trying to see what's your advice for like networking, trying to you know just trying to level up.
Yeah, 2020. I believe that one of the biggest shifts we're gonna see is more in-person experience. Number one, but as a man, I wrote this article of I've always wanted a black man to mentor me, right? And I've never, at an early age, right? I never found that because black men are the most under mentored group in America. And when we talk about mentorship, that's literally for the most part, giving people some game, some advice, some stewardship along their journey, telling them what to do, how to navigate, especially when a person doesn't know that themselves and they're stepping into different levels and different fields and different industries, and you have somebody there that can help usher you in and guide you along the way. But beyond that, that mentorship also comes with sponsorship, somebody that helps provide opportunities for you and things of that nature. Then it comes with a protection network. So as you're growing, you have also protection, which gives you that cushion to be able to make those moves that you want to make without this feeling, right? That you just jumping out there. And so there was a study that showed that we're the most under mentored beyond black women, white women, no matter what. And so I believe that what we need to do, and we start talking about networking is good, but most of the time, well, you need to create a network. And by doing that is you have to create number one, find whether that's offline, you find 5 people that can act as your virtual mentors. And if you can ever get them to be your mentor, right, then you seek that. Then when you start talking about building a network, right? As you're networking, you have to be very intentional and fostering relationships to where these are people that you can actually call upon, right? These are people that you can actually build with because a lot of us network and we have it within our phone, thousands of contacts that we never actually call, right? And so a lot of that time end up being wasted because we meet a lot of people that we'll never end up building with. And so I want us to be careful of over networking without building a network. So for 2026, you really want to go in there intentional. And the way you're going to know that you're building a good network is that it's going to feel like harmony and alignment, right? So when you find somebody that you meet and you connect with them, your goal is to number one, see how you can provide value. Two, right, be patient within that relationship as you cultivate, right, over time, a relationship of value. Call people. Man, I was just thinking about you, just wanted to call you, run some ideas by you. You know what I mean? Don't tell nobody you want to pick their brain because people hate that. I know I do. You understand me? But be intentional of building a brotherhood. Be intentional of building a sisterhood if that's going to be you. You feel me? That's what you kind of want to go with. And you got to develop that as a skill set because networking can be draining and it can be wasteful. But you got to put yourself out there as well. Because if a person don't know, they don't know you from scratch and you don't know them, but you know they have a value that you want, you also have to be valuable to that person because I was always taught that usefulness determines your value, right? And so look at what you need in your environment. Sometimes you need somebody you need to know in finance. You might need to know somebody that's a good operator that can help you execute ideas. You might need to know somebody that's a good mental coach that can help you with your thinking when you get stuck. You might need to know somebody that's more on the spiritual side. Like think about all of the gaps that need to be filled in your life and then network till you fill those gaps with at least one person.
I got you. I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem. But I think that's a really good, really, really good strategy that everybody should be able to look at of like networking for those gaps. But a lot of time we're not intentional enough to know what we're missing, right? So if you're somebody that's a visionary, you need to go network and find you an operator. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to get to that next level, you need to go intentionally go to places. And this is where a lot of people miss out. They're afraid to spend their money to get access. I had a young brother who spent who sponsored an event, and he spent over like 10K with us. And because he spent that, we invited him on some additional trips, and he was able to get, man, $100,000 worth of value out of that. We put him on stages, etc., because I like the initiative that people take. You understand me? We was able to put him in rooms, put him in front of clients, put him on platforms, help him create content. Because when I see somebody taking initiative, it's a whole nother level. If you give me value now, I need to exceed the value that you gave me. Right. And so a lot of people are not making those type of investments. We will, like, look at your weed budget, your liquor budget, your social budget. How much budget do you have when it comes to investing in your network? Right. Something small can go as sending somebody a gift. You know what I'm saying? Or sending them a reminder on their birthday or their anniversary or something. But like, there's an investment of time and energy that kind of goes into the cultivation of these relationships. You feel me? Like, I know some high level people. I was thinking about this earlier today. Me and my brother Jalen Brown, we have a good relationship, man. He came to about 3 of my events, pro bono. You understand me? Invited me to countless games. I then turn around, connect him with people that I know. We establish things together. We done got down, worked out, went hiking. You know what I'm saying? Shadow box the whole nine. But it's a cultivation because we had to build up that over time as we even get to know each other, because we are also in this space where people want so much from us, right? So it really utilizing that usefulness determines your value. Sit down and get to know people and be authentic in that engagement, right? But also get better at this thing. I don't care if you need to go watch TED Talks all day, read books on it, get better and practice, because interpersonal skill sets are lacking in current society, and people think about what they want but don't actually have the capability, right, to get what they need. All right. Let's take a question from a sister up here. Everybody else mute their mics when you're not talking. Mute your mics, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Yes. And can you plug that up to the light? Thank you. That's something I was missing. I knew something was missing. All right. Let's go with Sherry Locks.
Yes, my question is, what is one belief we must unlearn to step into our next level of human
Well, I would say, and can you mute your mic, please? Thank you. I don't want the echo to hit. Something that we must learn or unlearn. It is a really good question. Oh, let me sit with that for a second. First, let's break it down like this. You know, I'm a very cerebral, logical person. Somebody else may give you, oh, my brother Mike Rashid in here. Yeah. I'm gonna need somebody to jump out the circle so my brother Mike Rashid can come up. Thank you, thank you. All right, so as I'm thinking about this, and I'm gonna answer this in a very cerebral way, where I feel like other people may have a better way of answering this, from like a very spiritual standpoint. But first, I want to talk about what consciousness is, right? And consciousness, and this is going to go into something I think is going to really help a lot of people that you're probably struggling with or dealing with. Consciousness itself, as I look at it, is complexity. It's the higher order of things. When things reach a level of higher order, they become more complex. Now, let's think about this when you were a child. When you were a child, you can barely count minutes, right? And I'm thinking about how your mind keeps time, right? So you're thinking only in the present as a child. You don't know past, you don't know future, right? There's not much complexity within your mind. Matter of fact, you can't even think for self. You're not actually conscious. right? You don't start developing real consciousness to around the age of 7 to 8 years old. You go through experiences. Your brain goes through a pruning process throughout your life where you have all of these neurons that you could use, but they start disappearing the more you don't use them. But it allows you to start creating these vast connections all throughout your brain, right? This allows you to start connecting experiences. This allows you shut the door for me, please. This allows you to start connecting experiences. This allows you to start increasing your capacity. This allows you to start having growth in life and you start developing your own way of thinking. But for the most part, you're just taking on the environment stimuli, what your parents do. You're watching, you're engaging. You're just the observer at this point, a passive observer in your life. And as you go throughout life, you develop a more complex idea of self. You start thinking about who you are. You're aware of your own consciousness. You're aware of other people have ideas in their own mind. You're aware how the world perceives you. You start going to higher orders of thinking. And then hopefully as an adult, right, you develop even higher consciousness, time consciousness. You can think in months now. You can think in years now, right? And so that happens in all aspects of the world, right? We think about the internet. The internet is a system that is now conscious, right? A country is now conscious. Why? Because we turned on the internet and it allows minds to connect, right? We have flights now that we can take and it allows us, somebody in Ohio can catch a cold and then somebody in New York can get sick because they traveled. So it's like a bloodstream. And then that becomes connected to other places across the planet Earth. And so we're this interconnected globalist world that is highly conscious and that no particular country can control with their laws because we're all affected by each other. An Indian kid can create an app and then you start utilizing it the next day. Or he can create a virus to attack your computer and then you're affected by something halfway across the country. Space and time has collapsed in that capacity. Now, as we as individuals, the one thing that we do not think about enough is that our present time, which is what we give our attention to, is the only place that we have that is real, that can actually give us time to reflect upon the past, right? Which goes into a lot of self-development and project ourselves into the future, right? Which goes into our higher and newer selves that we are always becoming. And that's, of course, if we're looking at time as this linear ability. What many people do not have right now, and what's going to stunt a lot of people growth from ever growing, is that we are now in the time and age where we have machines that are in between us and our next stage. There was a time where we would only read and write on a machine. The machine never talked back to us. We're dealing with a machine that talks back to us. There's a study called captology, right? Where it's the study of how machines, digital machines, right, are built to influence us. And most people don't think about that. And I'm answering this question in this roundabout way so that we think about the fact that as we start talking about developing higher consciousness, it requires us to have a higher level of awareness. And the things that we're not aware of, they end up having control, right? And they confuse us because we don't know where that comes from. And we was always taught that the devil is the author of confusion, right? God is order. And when we have more order in our lives, we have more harmony in our lives, right? And so, number one, we need to unlearn the way that we interact, right, with the world as it's harmless instead of it's alive and that it's sentient, right, or that it has consciousness in everything that we interact with, whether it's a post, whether it's a comment, whether we hopping on the phone, right? It is engaging with our consciousness and having an effect on us, and it can stop us from going into the future, or it can trigger us to go into the past, which has us stuck in a time prison. And so I believe that we need to learn how to unlearn, number one, if we start talking about unlearning. And you need to learn how to learn, right? This is the brain's ability to develop itself over time, to correct itself, to reframe things in the past as not bad, right? But as a learning experience from my old self that I can now use in the current to project into a higher self into the future, right? So learning how to learn and learning how to unlearn is key. But more importantly than that, that goes into what? Awareness. And consciousness is awareness. And God is consciousness. So when we want to use the God mind that is within ourselves, we have to increase our awareness of ourselves, right? That goes into our shadow, That goes into the things that we don't want to see, things we don't want to deal with, right? Because sometimes it's fear that stops our growth because we don't want to see what's on the other side. So learning how to learn and learning how to unlearn needs to be some of the number one skill sets that you go into 2026 on, because you're going to need to be able to pivot. You're going to need to be able to flow. And having that level of self-awareness within yourself allow you to expand, because you're shining light in areas that were once dark. And once light reaches and touches an area, similar to when the universe expands, as light reaches areas that it has never reached before, we can be in a constant state of expansion. So at least that's what that question put me in that flow state. So inshallah, that answered the question. But at a simpler level, man, it's all about increasing our awareness and our experience of self, having silence, stillness, and darkness, and giving ourselves that time to develop, because we were born in a triple darkness in the womb of our mothers. And in order to simulate that environment again, to go into growth and become a higher product of ourselves and connect to God, sit in stillness, sit in silence, and sit in darkness and see what happens. My brother Mike Rashid, what's going on, black man? Man, I'm magnificent, my good brother, man. How you feeling? Yes, sir. When he gets back, I'm gonna ask him, you know, what's the wisdom that you've gathered from 2025, right? And what's the math on 2026? Hold on, I got somebody keep trying to call me, man. Oh, that's my pops. Assalamu alaikum, pops. I'm live right now. I'm gonna call you back after this live. It's I would let pops drop some wisdom to y'all, but we're gonna do that a little later. You there, my brother? I don't know what that was. Mike.
Hey, Keys, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
In my research and my study, man, and I really think about it. My research and my study, I'm learning that the people who rule or who are most successful in business maintain some level of cognitive flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
and that the masses think linearly, and that to really do well, you have to almost think in the dark.
Hey, what happened? The brother cut off.
Yeah, he cut off. I think he's going to say that bird. And I think the school system makes us linear thinkers. What is some strategy that you know of that we can begin to trust? We begin to actually unravel. We begin to start to think a little bit more in a divergent ways. Like in a similar fashion we was when we were children. I think that creates a difference between a lot of people who are successful in different industries because they wouldn't raise as linear thinkers. They was kind of still maintain some level of being a divergent thinker.
Man, this is a really great question, because this kind of goes like directly into what I'm super interested and passionate about right now, which is cognition and time. Um, Let me share something with you. You know, I've been studying myself deeply, creating cognitive profiles of myself, and studying, temporal feudalism, how a people are conquered through time, right? And how time becomes this thing that is a commodity that can be controlled. And so he talk about neurodivergent, thinking, and that's how my mind works. I can skip over things, get directly to the answer, then I have to reverse engineer how I got there, and that always got me in trouble in school, because they want linear thinkers, because linear thinking was the tool, right, of industrial capitalism, because you need people to follow instruction when you're putting them into a factory environment, right? And you need them to work step by step, or they're working inside a business and you need them to do what you want them to do, right? Authority loves control. And so this was the model of the education system throughout time, right? Is linear thinking. And so linear thinkers have always been rewarded in the old world. The new world, divergent thinkers will be rewarded, right? Non-linear thinking. The machine can think as linear as possible, right? And so as human beings, I think in cycles, but I also hold dual time in my mind, right? So in African time versus Black time, the African thinks in what's called polychronism. Polychronism is holding two time systems from the present and the past. The African doesn't really think that far into the future, and not every African, of course. I'm talking about African philosophy of time. There's not that many words for maintenance, and there's not that many words for near future, right? Because the future does not exist until a present action is taken. And so, therefore, every action that is taken is then thrown into the memory bank, right, of the African. It means it goes into the past. And so they believe that if you're sitting still, there is no future, right? That there's no future until there's an event for the most part. And so we live around events. It becomes communal. It works really good for relationship building. You're waiting to an eclipse. You're waiting to a full moon. You're waiting to, right, harvest time. You're waiting to a new season, right? All of these things signal an event coming, and then people organize around that event. And in between time, right, is not really real. And so when we think about it in that capacity, the world has made us linear. And so now people are thinking about, how do I do step 1, 2, and 3? And you're not making quantum leaps. When the machine allows you to start at step 10, or maybe start at step 7, or start at step 6, right? And then you can reverse engineer and piece these things together. A wealthy man might think about, how do I change the world, right? Before he even have the skill set to change, you just have the vision and the audacity to do it, right? That's not what we were taught in school. We were taught in school to go to college, get a degree, right? And then try to live the American dream. It's a very linear process to an outcome. And so you have to break away from traditional thinking and traditional education. And you're going to have to unlearn and reprogram, number one, your ideas around cognition and your ideas around time. Time is the biggest prison in the world if you do not understand it, right? And so creating systems that can leap forward in time is always key. But there's two things that I want you to study. There's one called Chronos and Kairos. Chronos is like timekeeping and sequencing. Kairos meaning opportune time, right? Opportune time is where the actual action takes place. When you study Chronos and Kairos, you go into very ancient ideas about time in two ways in which they are being constructed, and how our mind is actually interacting with time. When somebody gives you an idea, and Mike, I see my brother Mike back in here. When somebody gives you their idea, they're implanting, right, things into your conscious and your subconscious, and they're using your mind to help produce their ideas into reality. And basically what they're saying is, if you think that 2055 will be the year that, I don't know, the Terminator happens, right? Because for the last 50 years, we've been getting negative movies about AI. They're supplanting ideas in your consciousness. In the present, as you're reflecting on those ideas, you're projecting what's to come in the future, right? And so now they're using your mind to get their ideas out. Your mind becomes like this wound that they can use. It's a very powerful process, right? But now the question becomes, for a people, especially Black people in America and the diaspora all around, we have what's considered to be an anti-futurist culture. And anti-futurism is anything that stops us from thinking, building, and preparing for the future, while simultaneously distracting us and making us feel like we're making progress. That's anti-futurism. So hip-hop has become anti-futurist. Black movies have become anti-futurist. Black cinema has become anti-futurist. The events that we have are anti-futurist. We go to the club, we waste time, we spend money, we repeat the cycle, right? But when we complain about the things that are futurist, oh, you don't want to go to a conference because you think it's boring. But these are the things that's projecting you to think about wealth over time, Yes, it might not be hyper dopamine hitting you like you stimulating into searching novelty online because you're in this constant state of scrolling. But the thing that a lot of Caucasians can do better than a lot of black people is that they can sit and cipher through boring. We need sauce and rhythm on everything because our mind has to be captured with intention, right? Attention, rather. And if you will lose our attention fast, right? If it's not colorful, if it's not dancing, if it's not all these overt things, because we're very spiritual people. So it's not a bad thing. But when we're thinking about what we build, start with the end of mind. You understand me? You do not have to think linear anymore because you're going to be working for yourself anyway. Your life is going to be built around your gifts, your skills, and your talents, right? What you're doing is you're creating a system, though, that allows you to order your processes. So no matter which way that you start from the beginning or the end, because when I speak, my mind jumps into all sort of ideas. The goal is to externalize that, write them down, then put them in front of you, right? And once they're in front of you, you now have more control. The law of written clarity is that when you write something down, there's already 50% complete, right? And white people, they might come up with the idea, then figure out how to get the money second. But so they can go to venture capital, they can go get angel funding and things of that nature because they had different opportunities they can take based on how the system was developed, right? We think about, let me go to school, let me go figure out how to get the money, let me go figure out how to get a loan, let me go get, no, that's a trap. And it never worked for us and it never will work for us, right? And so you have to break away from all of the system and constructs going forward. And now we have tools with artificial intelligence that allows you to not be the most skillful person. And you don't have to start from that place. Start from being the most imaginative person. Write it down. Let the machine order it into a linear function. But imagination does not work in a linear. Imagination does not follow the laws of man. You dream, sometimes nothing makes sense in the dream because it is not following the constructs that you believe in this reality. So what we've lost is the capability of dreaming and lucid dreaming, right? Actually being lucid while you're dreaming and having control over that. And that's the state that we must induce ourselves into in order to have a future to where we can command the machines to do the linear model execution while we think in a non-linear way in imagination.
Keys, next up, can I ask a question to him?
Yes, sir. My brother Mike, man, he got me on it. He had me flooring for a second.
One thing that you're talking about, so right now, wow. So in our community, I know everybody that comes through, it's called the declaration of truth.
Mm.
Declaration is not an affirmation of anything, right? It's not about you're declaring, and you do it in December for the preceding year. You're declaring what your life is to be. Right? And the thing about it is, you're very detailed, very in depth, right? Not like when I make more money this year. No. If there's more money that you desire, you say, I am in the process of making X amount of money. You say how? By doing this, by because this, what you're gonna do with the money, right? When you do that way, I can get your health, your relationship status, whatever, right? So you write everything out, right? And then that's very vivid, right? And then every day, this is like when I go to what I do, and I got you think about like, you get up, you pray, or whatever you do, and then you ponder on your list, go through your list, read it. After a week or two, you're like, oh, the amount of stuff you gotta have. And you have to be very, very, very strict. Because think about it. These are targets. And the more descriptive you are, the target, the easier it is to win.
Mm.
You go about your day, but you adjust your actions in your mind in accordance to what your list, right?
Mhm.
So if you want something that's not beneficial to the legal industry to do, right? So and do the things that's on your list now. Like my list is voluminous. It's like
Voluminous.
so this is something that I know works. It works. And then we're gonna ask yourself, right? What's gonna we want? What is it that your heart desires? I want to be boss. I want to do that. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but you think this is what I happen by accident, right? If somebody wanna build a home, kind of draft up plans, and then they go and execute, you
Hmm.
have to write things out. It's not gonna happen just because you want it. And people have to stop one second. So one, to declare black, right?
Mm.
It's a position that's not happening. It's something word, it's something state of mind. So the thing that that we feel is supposed to be in our world, start before.
Damn, that brings a good. You say want is a weak word.
Yes, sir.
Like, and I'm big on language because language is so metaphysical, especially the way it works in our mind, but also the way it works ontologically and has real energetic properties. So, like, if we replace the word want with the word will, right? They say I want money or I will money. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't replace those words interchangeably.
Or just do it. Just go get it. Just go and just and people be like, oh, it's not that easy. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It literally is. It's a process. It's a process for everything. $1 million, plan together. It's a process. There's people. Listen, you talking a lot about like AI and the internet. Listen, people have access to any millionaire, any billionaire, their programs, how they did this, how they did that. We got access to so much. But see, people are too
I,
tethered to entertainment.
in a lot of ways, we have too much access.
Passive observing. Sometimes they listen to you, they listen to people, but they're not taking notes and actionable things. Right? It kind of works being popular, like people in the community that know everything that I've talked about. Because I'm like, yo, that means you're not doing any games.
Right. But see, Mike, this is where even in a community is not always about trying to teach you something. It's about reminding you. And this is a key factor. A
Yes,
lot of
sir.
people have well, mostly the world has ADHD. It's not I'm not talking about in the sense of like being diagnosed from it from a doctor, but our attention is being robbed from us,
Yes,
right?
sir.
If we're on the internet and we use social media, we have ADHD. Let's just be honest, right? You find yourself scrolling, that's ADHD. What
Yes, sir.
happens in a mind that has ADHD is that we cannot get ourselves to do what we know, right? So you know these things, but you cannot perform them. So this is why people be like, and this is why people start searching for more novel information because they saying telling me something I don't know as if that's going to get them to perform, and it's not, right? This is where a lot of people get stuck, and this is why being in an environment, being in a community, being in a circle is really good because what it does is it reminds you to do what you know and to perform that task. And with that level of accountability, it starts to connect the part of the brain that executes and a part of the brain that knows. So we have unlimited information, but limited execution. You
Yes,
understand
sir.
me? We have a wealth of information, but a poverty of execution. And so the goal is and I'm focused only on performance for 2026. Like you be around me, I'm gonna get you to perform better, right? I'm gonna get
Yes,
you to
sir.
take all the things that you know. I'm gonna remind you of what you need to be doing. You don't need to always seek novel information, and that's way a lot of our brains do work. We want something that gets us going, but what you need to do is really sit down and figure out meaningful information. What does it mean
Right.
to you? And is that really aligned? Because when it's aligned, you become more intentional. And when you are intentional, that means that you are aiming for what you're going for. And as you were saying earlier, when you write these things down, it allows you to know what you're aiming for. And when you're doing something that is not in alignment with your aims, now you can say, oh, this is when I'm sinning, because sinning means to be off target. So anything that distracts you becomes a sin, right? So when we're spinning in a direction that has nothing to do with our aims, our goals, our intentions, that's a financial sin. And then when we are finding ourselves in poverty, it's because we sinned our whole lives. We didn't put it in order and become intentional. So now our lives does not reflect the God within. It reflects how the devil confuses us.
We gotta go in and have a squat session right now. Thank you for brother Evan, brother. Like I can get on them all whenever.
Yes, sir.
But I know you, brother.
Love you too, brother. Peace to the black God.
Peace, God. Talk to them. I got a question.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
So you talked about, you know what I'm saying, the alignment, and it distracted me from that is saying, how could somebody that's not as conscious or have a level of understanding to be able to find out, figure out what that means?
Say that one more time.
I said you mentioned the living in alignment and basically the sin being against whatever that is, distracting you from whatever that is. So I'm saying, how could someone figure out what that is? Like for the alignment part?
All right. So I think finding that is relatively easy in the sense if you think about it from a fasting sense. When I fast sometimes, and when you fast and you say, you know what, I'm about to get rid of all sugars out my diet, right? And I'm going to get rid of, all dairy out my diet. And I want to get rid of, all artificial foods and things of that nature out of my diet, all processed foods. And you're doing this because let's say you've been working out, but you still got stomach fat. You know what I mean? Your legs are still fat. You're still not getting the results that you want to get. And so the fasting helps clear everything out your way. Then the thing that you crave the most, that's the thing that's going to show up, right? It might be the sugar, it might be the cheese, it might be the dairy, right? It might be the chips, it might be anything. That thing that you crave the most, that's the thing that's keeping you down. The thing that you can't go without, that's the thing that's in your way, right? Because you're supposed to be able to step into this monk mode at any time, to drop any and everything. And if you're in perfect alignment, right, then you can be in the state that I need nothing, and that be an honest to God truth. So the things that you crave the most when you're going to go away from them, where you sitting away from your phone, and you like, what? And you sitting in a room by yourself in silence and stillness and darkness, just imagine a room, there's nothing in. What is that thing that you need the most? That thing you're thinking about now, that's the thing that's controlling you. And until you can fast away from that and detox off of that to where when you engage in with it, it's healthy. Because sometimes it could be a relationship. You need this person so much, they become an emotional crutch. When you're away from them, you don't know who you are. That's not healthy, right? You could be somebody that, and it could be anything. It can be sometimes a person be in the gym so much, and if they're not in the gym, then their mental health falls off because they have this thing that is distracting them from actually the root of the problem, right? And so fasting helps you gain clarity, right, on the things that are attached to you. And so as a human being, we were born in this world naked, need nothing but our mothers. And then it comes to a point where we don't even need our mothers in the sense that we suckle on the nipple anymore. We're now grown and we can go feed ourselves. We have a capable mind. We have a father to protect us. Now we don't need our father to protect us, right? We become well-managed adults, but then the world throws all these desires at us and makes us think that these things that we do are part of who we are. And so if you can't fast from those things, you don't really know yourself. So fasting is one of the greatest tools to realign who you are and to know what's in alignment and what's out of alignment so that you can get back to being intentional. So there's a lot of people that call themselves smokers. Mute yourself if thank you. There's a lot of people that call themselves smokers. I mean, you smoke so much goddamn weed. You know what I mean? You act like you competing with Snoop. You competing with Wiz right now. And so you calling yourself a smoker, meaning that it becomes your identity. Somebody calls themselves a drinker, it's a part of their identity. That is a crisis of identity. You have attached things to it and leashed these things to it, and it feels like you can't be yourself if you're not these things. And these things are words for the most part, but words that mean something because they're connected to an action. What is it that's connected to who you are that is the most meaningful thing in your life? Right? If I say I'm a Muslim, well, I'm saying that's one who submits his or her will to do the will of God. Not the connotation, but the definition. But we attach ourselves to things based on the connotation, which is how we feel about things. So you start at the root identity, who I am. What do I need to be who I am? Right? What are my values attached to who I am? And as you make your next move, ask yourself, is that aligned to not just who I am, but who I want to become? And if the answer is no, then that means that you need to detox from that. Let it go. Doesn't mean you can't endure it sometimes. But identity, meaning, and purpose are the keys to life that allows you to get into a state of flow, to be intentional. Because when you're not being intentional, right, then your attention can be distracted. And then that's when it starts to create chaos in life. So a commercial comes on to something you want. Somebody on Instagram talking about how their life is and how their relationship is, and you watching that and being like, damn, this just got my attention. Maybe this is what I want. But it has nothing to do with your intentions. You just wanted peace in your household and somebody to love you. Now you need your man to have a goddamn airplane in order for you to love him. You know what I'm saying? Like they just distracted you and took you away because we are always watching other people and our joy is being stolen. So if we can't fast from these things, then they have a hold on us. And the only thing that we should require in our lives is God.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Explain that very well.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, it's just kind of like if you lack identity or you lack self, you're more subjected to fall into the soul.
And therefore you write it down. You ask yourself, who am I? Who am I without these things? You know what I mean? We come in the world naked. You know what I mean? A man and a woman naked standing in the mirror gets to ask themselves that question. You look in the mirror and you ask yourself, who am I? And if you can get to a place of brutal honesty, the type of honesty that may make you cry, honesty that make you feel fear, and then you keep going, keep walking, keep walking. What happens is you get to such a place of fullness that the things that you thought you needed starts to disappear. You know, I used to wear a big chain, you know what I mean? And I used to love that chain. I wanted people to see me with the chain on, the big kilo, the gold. I don't need that anymore. I'm full, right? And even though I did it for an intentional purpose to teach people about assets, to also show the thought leadership in a different light, and it worked for that time period. But when I stopped being intentional for that particular reason, I have to be honest with myself of why I'm doing it. And if I can't walk without those things and still feel as valuable, then I'm using those things as a proxy for my insecurity, right? And so when you can walk in a room and still be the value without the external things, then that's when you start to get to a true self, right? To let go of the things, to have an ego death. So now I know everything that I'm doing is meaningful to me. I've made money. I've lost money. I've made friends. I've lost friends. I've built businesses. I've lost businesses. You understand me? Like I've been through both sides. And in that, you get to really see who you are. It's the greatest experience on the planet Earth. If you've never felt greatly, you haven't experienced life fully. Feeling greatly allows you to really experience life. You see who you are and what your character really is. Then you get the beauty of seeing who's with you. You get the ability to go through adversity. You don't know how beautiful adversity is because it lets you know exactly how strong you are. Because some people haven't been through a real challenge, so they don't know how strong they are. You going in the gym and you picking up the 20s. And because you only train with the 20s are still heavy to you, right? But that's your life. So I can't say that that's not heavy to you, but I can tell you That to a person that trains and the person that seeks their real potential, it's not heavy at all. And so there's some of us living lives that's not really that heavy. And how do we know? Because when we look over to somebody else who is struggling with heavier weight, it shows us the possibility in the human condition. It shows us, damn, man, here I am complaining about not having engagement on followers or something. Something trivial as that, while the next man may have just lost a child. Do you know what's required for him to go through that loss? Is nowhere near the same as the strength it requires you, right? To go through what you think is heavy. I see another man and he picking up 100-pound weight. He picking up 500 pounds. I'm not thinking about the weight he's picking up is heavier. I'm thinking about the process of development that he went through to reach this level of strength. That's the difference. And then I think, well, if he can do it, then I can do it. And what is that mental and spiritual and physical process? What does it mean to go through that process? Because sometimes we have make excuses for ourselves. Well, I don't want to be all buff and aesthetic. I ain't trying to be in the gym doing that. No, you making excuses because you don't want to go through the process. Some people say, well, I don't want a lot of money. No, you making excuses because you don't want to go through the process. Oh, I don't want to be vegan. You making excuses. You don't want the process. You don't want the discipline. You don't want to have to develop into the person that can produce the goal. You want it easy. That's the reality. This is why honesty and transparency with yourself is the most important thing on the planet. It's not that you don't want it. It's not that you don't think it'd be great if you had it. You don't want to challenge yourself to become it. You don't want to reach the frequency that deserves it. Talk to me.
Hey, Keys, I got a question, man.
All right, 1 second. Let me get one of the ladies in real quick.
Can I go?
Yes.
Thank you. I do have a few questions, so I won't take up too much of your time. To kind of go on what you just said, I had a conversation with someone yesterday that I would say is probably slightly lower in consciousness. They brought up to me that because I'm so deep in my spirituality, that I'm too nice to get money. I'm too nice to have the level of wealth that I desire. And there's been this kind of question about whether I still desire material things if I'm okay spiritually and full spiritually in a good kind of sense of peace. Why would I still want those material things? And having wanted those material things, is that kind of opposing my spirituality, if that makes sense?
All right. So let's ask, and let's kind of get to the real. You know, we are flesh and material beings. Our bodies are flesh, right? And we live in a world, and I think there's a lot of people that kind of confuse like spirituality with like homelessness almost. Because when I think about nice first, actually, let me start there. The word nice is not an actually good word. It's not a good word. So I think that they're correct in that sense. Right? Let's look this up because this gets women more than anything, because women are told to be nice, not to take up space, things of that nature. Right? And this is a very dangerous thing, because if we look at the root word of nice, right? And I've always liked this. The root word of nice comes from nasius, meaning ignorant or unaware. Right? And which comes from the old French, and the first meant foolish or stupid. Right? And then over time, they changed that to being pleasant or kind, which gets women to act ignorant or unaware. Where do women walk away? A lot of times you talk to a man you know you smarter than, and you say, oh, I was just being nice. I was acting unaware. I was acting foolish. Right? When sometimes you go to the old movies and things of the nature, you see how women engage with men. They have to act. This man is talking to them about something they already know, and she's acting completely unaware of the subject matter because she doesn't want to impose her thoughts because it makes him feel little about himself. So a lot of women have been taught to be nice, to act unaware, to act foolish, to act stupid, so that when a man is in your presence, he can feel smarter or greater than you. So if we're talking about wealth building, right, and we're talking about the things that you want to accomplish and or achieve, if your strategy is to use the personality of unawareness, right, that allows you to move throughout the room, and it's a part of your strategy towards building wealth, then sure. But if niceness is just a part of your personality because you've been conditioned into groomed into these things, then yes, you are correct that you are not acting in your true self, and wealth is attracted, right, to truth, right? This is why a lot of people, whether they're dark, and when I talk about dark energy, like they can be psychopaths and build wealth. So wealth doesn't require righteousness, at least the type of wealth that we're talking about, like in riches and things of that nature. We know families that have built extreme wealth. People that are corrupt have built extreme wealth. The question becomes, how does the righteous build wealth? How do you stay enlightened and build wealth, right? To where you can have a level of harmony, right, within the capitalism that we may partake in. And let's think about it from this standpoint. If we think about God, and we think about God as being abundance, correct?
Yeah.
If God is abundance, right, then why would we not want to have abundance in our lives?
Right.
Now, the question is, we don't want to be greedy. We don't want to get to a point where we're chasing things that we don't need. Let me ask you this question. I heard this from Myron Golden. He said, how much love do you want in your life?
As much as I can get.
Much as you can get, right? How much health do you want in your life?
As much as I can maintain.
Much as you can maintain, much as you can get, right? Now, how much money do you want in your life?
Enough to be free.
See, now when we talk about a money, we put a cap on it. Enough to be free.
I heard the limitation in my head when I said it as well.
Why not as much as you can get? And when I say as much as you can get, I'm not talking about you becoming some greedy capitalist. I'm talking about what aligns with you, right? Because you're only going to get as much love as that aligns with you. How you treat people is how others going to treat you. You don't want them to cap and say, oh, I can't show you that much love. You got too much. No. If I deserve that love, show it. If I deserve that money, I want it. Why? Because when righteous people have the money, in every spiritual sense, you are required to give charity. How can you give from an empty cup? How can you help from what you don't have? And the most righteous people in the world, right, they virtue signal their lack as if it has something to do with their righteousness. And when there is a correlation, because the poor righteous teacher was never about righteous people being poor, it was about being poor in the ways of the world, right? Not poor in material, but also not becoming a materialist 100%, but having harmony. Because when you produce value, that value should also then be valued. There should be reciprocation. Exactly. Otherwise, you get burnt out from being nice to people who then does not produce the gratitude, and then you get tired, and then all of a sudden now you're dealing with people with an attitude. So when we think about money, we should always want abundance, but the question is, what is your intention with the abundance? Right? When you have a great vision and you have good intentions, you think about the resources that are required in order for you to produce and manifest those intentions. Well, if I want to change the world, if I want to build systems and institutions, right, and I have good intentions and I know what I'm going to do with the resources that I have, I need as much resources as possible to produce as much change and impact as possible. Not I want as much resources as possible to hoard it so that I can just be rich and wealthy. That's when it becomes a problem, when you just want the identity of rich and wealth. Not that it's attached to an intention of how to use those resources, but never put a lack on what you can receive. Never, ever do that. If you want as much love as possible, then get as much money as possible in the timeline in which you are living so you can have as much impact as possible.
Yeah.
Hey, Keith, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. But did that answer your question?
It definitely did. It definitely did. And I think that I was thinking that, wanting a huge abundance was kind of like going against everything that I stand for in terms of not being, sorry, in terms of not being, sorry, my phone just completely threw my train of thought. Yeah, to answer my question eventually. I did have one more, but I don't mind letting somebody else go.
You ask your question, then I'm gonna jump to him and he'll ask his question. I'm gonna answer both at the same time.
Okay, cool. My question is actually, I don't want to offend anybody, but I genuinely want to know from my kind of standpoint and through research and over the times, I took a step back from assigning myself to any particular religion, just based on the structure and the constructs of it and how it's built. And we're not going to go too much deep into that, but I wanted to know because obviously I heard you saying certain terms with Islam, and I think you said that you are in Islam. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born a Muslim.
You was born Muslim. So I wanted to see how you are existing within the religious space, having this level of like consciousness away from religion. Like I know it's the same as, but there's a lot of things that you talk and that you preach about that are not necessarily from religion. So I just wondered how you navigate that.
Yeah, I mean, I always find this as an interesting question, because I think that a lot of people think as religion as a limitation, right? And first of all, I first look at religion as a tool. I was taught from an early age. I went to a school called Elijah's Educational Center. It was based on the teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad when I was younger. And one thing they taught us primary in that school, the first thing that they taught us was that Islam is not a religion. And see, this is why, as we think about religion, right, and we think about what these things are, we first have to define them for ourselves. Because we can, with everything in life is our personal understanding and relationship that we have towards it. We cannot actually take on anybody else's meaning. We can only have our own personal relationship. But I was always taught that Islam is a way of life. And if we're talking about, everybody mute yourselves while we speak. My brother Darius, if you can mute yourself. Thank you. If we're talking about Islam as a way of life, right, then we go into the golden rule. Number one, treat people how you want to be treated. But number two, look at this as the original lifestyle of human beings on the planet Earth, right? And when I think about religion, I think about it as a set of rules given to a people that forgot how to live righteously. And when I think about that in specifics, think about where the world is. A lot of people fear having a child today because we fear that our child will be corrupted by the world, right? And as a parent, you tell that child ways to live so that they won't be corrupted, right? That child can overeat and they can become obese, and we can lose our child at an early age to a disease. So you teach them the rules of eating. You teach them the rules of proper eating, right? One can look at that veganism or plant-based eating or healthy eating lifestyle as a religion. It has rules and there's consequences for disobeying those particular rules, and those consequences become, right, obesity. It becomes high blood pressure. It becomes heart disease. It becomes cancer. It becomes all of these things that we're consequentially dealing with as a people right now. Then you can tell your child, listen, do not have sex early. Do not have sex with people that don't mean anything. You could teach them the game of how not to be manipulated. So you don't want them to get pregnant early, go into a spiral to where they end up having financial consequences, and now they're not able to live their full developed life. Well, think about a people that was living out of harmony with life. They've gotten so bad that they were savage, so bad that they're raping women, so bad that they're treating women as if they're lower than dirt, right? And then you come back and then you see those people and you say, man, these people forgot who they are. Their music reflects the dirtiest state that a human being can be in. right? And so you give them rules and say, man, this is the way to live, so that you're not so taken away from what your nature is, because the world will feed you desires. The world will try to trick your mind. It will try to manipulate you into all of these states. So how does a man or a woman stay aligned with their true self while the world is kind of consistently pulling them, right? And therefore, somebody is then bringing you the ancient knowledge of who you are and saying, listen, well, as a Muslim, it says pray 5 times a day. Now, people look at that as extreme, but what is it really doing? When you pray, what is it aligned with? It is aligned with the sun salutations as the sun moves throughout the day. So your body is literally now being aligned with a cosmic body, right? And so this is a cosmic knowledge. This is astronomy. Like, you are now living in harmony with the universe. And what they're giving you is a reminder in a world of distraction. So it's saying, no, also go clean yourself when you take your prayer. You know what I mean? Do ablution, wash your hands, wash your feet, wash your ears, wash your eyes, wash your mouth. That is an act of daily purification, right? And what is that really doing? We say cleanliness is next to godliness, and cleanliness is godliness. So if people were living dirty at first, and they smelled, and you go to ancient Europe and they went through the dark ages because they didn't know how to bathe. And you come in and you're giving the people a way to live in harmony, a way to live in cleanliness, right? Because they can't see germs. They don't know germs. They don't know disease that comes from germs that get spread, because they don't have that science at that time. But you're giving them a way to live, even though they are unaware, that is going to be the best way to live in the world, right? You're giving them things to read, things to follow, right? And so what you're doing is you're giving them instructions on how to live in harmony and how to live an intentional life as a human being, so that you're not disrupted from the world that is trying to corrupt you from when you're born. And so if religion is done right, it disciplines you. It say don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat the swine, right? Don't curse your brother or your neighbor, right? Don't covet another man's wife. Don't gamble. Don't put other people in debt. Don't charge them interest, right? If religion is done right, it is giving man rules, so it does not create chaos, but it creates harmony. The problem is not what people have with religion. The problem is people have with those who practice religion, and they turn it into their religion. So you take Islam and turn it into Islam. You understand me? You take Christianity and it's more about the pastor than it is Yahshua. Because there are people that call themselves Christians, but they're not Christ-like, right? But what was Christ? Christ was not somebody who was trying to set up a religion, but he was showing you how to live as a liberator of your people, how to live revolutionary, how to live righteously, right? He see the people charging the people interest and money. And what did he do? He said he wrestles with principalities. He went against the Pharisees or the people that was within his own religion. And he said, man, y'all not following according to our true beliefs. And you're corrupting the youth and you're corrupting the world. And he's seen this and he could not live with this, because a righteous person cannot live with disharmony. If you're a person that likes peace, you can't live in a household where everybody is loud. We have to check this. Now we have to figure out, okay, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Let's have rituals and routines so that we can live in harmony with each other. And so we have to share this planet Earth. And I look at religion as giving us instructions on how to share, right? And so whether you're thinking about the Bhagavad Gita, you're thinking about the Holy Quran, you're thinking about the Bible in its original essence and form in books, right? These were instructions from master teachers. You understand me? And so for me, religion is not a constriction, right? And depending on your enlightenment in it, one person can read one thing and another person can get a deeper wisdom, because on an initiate level, which is 90% of people are just initiates into religion. They don't study the deep esoteric. They don't study the deep occult, the deep metaphysics. They don't get into the root of what these things mean. So therefore, they're not even really extracting the full power from it. They're only in the initiate phase of understanding, because when you understand that all religions come from the same source of truth, they're just different branches of that. And so once you have that understanding, sort of like Minister Farrakhan once said, he said, I can call myself a Christian, I can call myself a Baptist, I can call myself a Jew, I can call myself a Muslim, I can call myself a Hebrew. You understand me? I can call myself whatever, because once you have a real deep spiritual understanding, then that's when you understand that these things all come from one source but different branches. That's truth. Religion should never have people fighting against each other, and it should not constrict you.
I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Sorry, JB. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think thank you so much for breaking it down in that context because it's something I've been toying with for a while, especially as I feel like I've lost direction since I've lost those types of like routines and structures and such. I was never really belonging to any particular religion for a long time. I kind of experienced a lot of them. I do feel like that guidance, even I have a Quran, like I'm trying to read it, even spending time with the Bible, because I don't believe it was, as it is, I believe it in metaphors and it is guidance that has deeper meanings, and I've always been kind of conscious of that. I feel like the way you've explained it, you've taken the kind of negative side that I was seeing out of it and put the actual raw origin back into the mix. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And it's such a blessing to be sharing space with you. Sorry, listen, to be sharing space with you.
Man, thank you. I appreciate you. Where you calling from?
From the UK, in the UK.
Oh yeah, you didn't come to the event we had in Birmingham.
I was so upset.
Okay. You didn't get to make it. Okay, well, I definitely love Birmingham. I look forward to coming back out there doing another event soon. Actually, I appreciate you. All right, my brother tied up, and then JB tied up. You just ask your question. Then I'm gonna let JB hop into his.
So much I want to ask you. I'm not talking to which is this is almost I don't know where it's common that I asked a question prior to this, but with so much separation and division that the propaganda in America is promoting, it seems like a mute point to chase the concept of people coexisting and coexisting with different philosophies and cultures. I want to ask you, is it a realistic expectation for so-called African Americans to expect a nation to coexist with a harmonious set of leaders?
Mm. All right, so that's a good question. JB, I'm gonna let you ask your question. I'm gonna flow into both of those.
All right, peace, man.
Yo,
Peace, everybody. It's an honor. You know what I'm saying? Being here speaking with you, I definitely follow you. I appreciate you. So my question is, I'm a husband, father,
yes,
and
sir.
I just wanted to know how can I, what are some good ways to train my mind to be more of a futurist thinker and a world builder instead of just like being stagnated and consumed with what's going on in my past. I'm somebody who I've been through a lot previously, and unfortunately, I hold myself to who I was. And so, whenever there's opportunity for growth, those two vibrations, the my lower vibration and my higher vibration, come through. And I've never really able to like get out of that loop and go to the next stage. So, what are some helpful ways that I can train my mind in order to be more futurist?
Very good question. So we got two questions. First, I want to thank the super chat over here, Ahmad, no, Shamakadi Poet. It says, "Bless you, brother. Thank you so much for the build. The way you articulate and execute, sharing your knowledge with intention is received. God's gift to me and the people going into 2026. May God and the ancestors protect you. Thank you, my brother. Salute. I appreciate that love." All right. So my brother asked a really good question. Brother tied up. He was talking about harmony within the diaspora and leadership. And then my brother JB was talking about, how can one train their mind to be a better future? These are both questions that I have wrestled with this year. Um, if you notice, like even myself, I've sat down and I've created a platform, high level conversations, where we've amassed hundreds of millions of views, billions of impressions around the world. And I wanted to bring elders and leaders together to share their wisdom and on my platform, right? So that we pay for the space, we bring you there, and we share our audience. I'm never afraid to sit down with anybody and share light, because I think that the best representation of unity, right, is the action of it versus the verbalization of it, because we talk about a lot of things that we don't actually do. And so I've always created groups, and it was always to showcase what unity looks like, right? Not to just talk about it, right? So when you see us partner and collaborate, it was like, all right, how can leaders build? Now, that's easier said than done. And this is where my maturity has come in. We talked about unity for a very long time. And we wonder, why hasn't it happened yet? Like, what is wrong with Black people in America and across the world, the diaspora, etc. I think it's because, as Honorable Elijah Muhammad once said, he said, unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. And I still believe that's true. But I believe that before we seek unity, we must seek alignment. And what's happened is that the leaders are not aligned. Somewhere in the vision, the values, the goals, there's not an alignment. So get in front of the people, preach all this unity, but then behind the closed scenes, you won't even unite with your brother who has a difference of opinion or thought. Like, we wanted to have Dr. Umar on the show, and even at InvestFest. He turned it down several times, stating that he don't want to sit down with any other conscious leaders. Yet he is known as a Pan-Africanist leader, and Pan-Africanism is all about connecting the diaspora in Africa, which is a movement of so-called unity. But obviously that there's a misalignment there. You have all these leaders of churches, the Boule, the Muslims, the Christians, and they claim to speak the speech of unity. But there is a misalignment with their intentions. And so before there is unity, there has to be alignment. And what happened is that we have lost intention and intentional culture. And that disconnection fractures us. And it makes what we do performative. So we talk unity, but don't practice it. And unity is not about everybody agreeing. It's about everybody building together and finding alignment. See, the enemy knows how to align on things. He says, look, our time is running out. We are in an emergency. You get a J.D. Vance who was calling Trump everything but a devil, basically. And now he's his vice president. They found alignment. And now it looks like unity. But the Black community, your brother, got an ego. So am I optimistic about it? I will remain optimistic about it, because unity is nothing but a time thing. When this country in America was founded, they created this story that it was just this signing of this Declaration of Independence, and we got us a president, George Washington, and America was unified to move forward. Well, George Washington wasn't the first president. There was many of the presidents before him. There was much disagreement before that, right? So what happened? They wanted to seem as if it was this single spark of unity that brought white America together. So they told this narrative. But in reality, there was in-house fighting. There was assassinations, wars over time before they got to a point of unity. So the question is, what does the process of unity look like? Maybe it looks like conflict sometimes until we have alignment. Maybe it looks like disagreement until there's alignment. Maybe it looks like, Things get a little violent until there's alignment. Because that process of unity is these pieces trying to find harmony and moving things in and out until they have harmony. And so Black America and the diaspora is currently in the process of unity, and it's an ugly process. Countries typically go to war before that process is complete. So I believe that we will continue to stay in the fire until it's possible, but it will always be the ultimate goal of a people that are misaligned, because we will not have health, just like a body is not healthy until it's in harmony. And so, as a people, we will not be a healthy people. We will not rise to the top again. None of those things will happen until eventually we have unity. But first, we must seek alignment. Let's align on our goals. Let's align on our vision. Let's align. And where we align, let's unify on. And then let's keep moving forward until we have complete alignment. And if we don't, then let's just have separation. Now, my brother DeRay, he has a good question about becoming a futurist. I have a piece of paper here. Let me grab. Where is it at? I think it's this one here. I did a whole breakdown about being a futurist the other day. It's not here, but I want to see if I can grab it. So let's deal with this. And let's deal with this good. As a futurist myself, I've been studying time, society, culture, civilizations. I'm a student of history, a student. I'm still working to become a master. And so I have a long way, but I'm on my journey. When I first started my point of being a futurist, first of all, I've always been interested in the future, even as a child. I've always been deeply interested. I used to subscribe to the Scientific American when I was younger. You understand me? I always loved technology, before all the narratives about negative technology and dirty technology. And so I would think about the future a lot, like what will we be in the future? Well, I was always taught about this idea of the hereafter. My favorite futurist is Afrofuturist, is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He gave us these ideas about technology, original people building technology, building ships that are capable of flight beyond what's currently capable of the machines that modern man has built. And this is early teaching, right? He impregnated our minds with these ideas about us as Black people in the future being highly capable scientific people. So from an early age, that was always a part of the identity spectrum that I've seen for us. And so when I was younger, I would project on the idea of 2025, thinking about what was possible, right? And it's always about, when do we build us a utopia? A utopian society where you got freedom, justice, equality, and peace. It's righteousness that rules. This is a very beautiful place. And I remember writing about this in 2017. I wrote a whole thesis about the hereafter. And every time I went to a place, I would read this. And because I believe that if you don't have an idea of the future, right, then you don't have one. You can live in somebody else's, but you don't have your own. And so you said as a father, but this goes towards whether you're a father, mother, no matter who you are, futurism is a lifestyle. When we ask ourselves, what's our top favorite Afro-futurist films? It might be hard to come to. You might get to a Black Panther, right? You get to, somebody in the comments, help me out. What's a Black Afro-futurist film? I would, because there's a star Black man in it, the movie Tenet, dealing with Denzel Washington's son. There's a show called Lovecraft Country. There's another show called The Man Who Fell to Earth. These are futurists just because their main characters are black, scientists are black, and things of that nature. But those two I just named, Lovecraft Country is Afrofuturism, projecting us into the future. And then Sinners is also an Afrofuturist film because it deals with the past and it reframes the narrative of the past. And this is why a lot of people think about futurism as just the projection of the future. It's the study of cycles, but it's also the reframing of the past contextually. When we think about the past and we think about slavery, Abraham Lincoln did not free the slaves. The slaves fought for their freedom. Abraham Lincoln had no choice because they had their own army. They was already fighting, already rebellion. The Seminole War lasted for 40 plus years. Your ideas of your history do not come from people who look like you. And a lot of the people who even teach history that do look like you were taught by people who don't look like them. So they think that their education is proper and that is truth. And then they go online on social media and they find something about history that they never learned, yet they have a master's degree in African American history. How is that so? Because the education system is an indoctrination system, not a system that is to produce Afrofuturism. Because when you get black people to think about the future, specifically their version of the future, their version of the past, and their version, I mean the truthful reality of the past, but then the past has so many perspectives. To even learn one perspective of the past is always a limitation. There's how the slave viewed it, how the master viewed it, right? There's always these perspectives on every situation we go through in life. If we tell it from our perspective, it may be limited because of how we want it to be seen and how we want the story to be told. But if somebody witnessed that, they may tell the story differently. So history is perspectives and narratives. It's never the whole truth. So this is why it's important to study the past and study your own past as a father, as a man. When we think about the things, there's a scientific term called mental time travel. I use this when I study. Now I put together a course called Learning How to Learn. It was my first course I put together because I wanted to learn better. Because I would be picking up all these things and I was feeling like my mind was not like capturing all the ideas, my memory, my retention. I was studying something, and then if I couldn't communicate it in a conversation, I felt like that I had not learned it. I couldn't use it. So I study how to learn a lot. And mental time travel is really good when you're learning. And here's the reason why. I will pick up a subject and I will study it, maybe going for hours. Ooh, excuse me. Technical difficulties here. I will pick up a subject and I will study it for hours. And then I will stop. And then when I stop, I will reflect on what I just learned. Okay, what did I just learn? So now I'm going mentally into the past of what I just did. Thinking about that action, and I'm thinking about what I learned. Then as I'm thinking about what I learned, I'm then projecting into the future on how I'm going to use it. So how is what I just learned useful to me, and how will I apply it? So now I'm going into the past, reflecting over what I studied. Then I'm going into the future, projecting onto how I'm going to use it. This locks it in to the brain. It's activating different parts of the brain, and it's making the information intentional. So there's always an aspect of futurist projection to lock in the information. And what you're doing is you're taking your brain into default mode and then going into task mode. That default mode is when you want to get into deep study. That task mode is when you're thinking. So, as a man, as a woman, as a human being, as a culture, as a society, we all have this ability. First, when we go into the past should be a place that we study, not a place that we relive. And it's okay to relive good memories, but some of us are reliving bad memories and memories that you are still attaching as your identity. When your present self should be disconnected from the memory and should be an observer to say, okay, this is what that version of yourself behaved like. This is what that version, I didn't like what that version of myself did in this situation, but why? That version of myself was ignorant, weak, insecure. He could have only handled things in that capacity. Now, what do I learn from it? And how will I use that moving forward so that I never loop that behavior again? So you're detaching from the old self, and now you're projecting the lessons you learned from that and attaching a new identity onto yourself of how you will move forward. So what we need to do is I practice simulation. I run simulations in my head a lot. Yes, it requires a lot of energy. I burn a lot of mental calories doing this. But before I go into every situation, I run a simulation of exactly how I want the sequence of events to play out. And then I run a simulation of not just how I'm going to interact with it, but how everybody else may interact, because I can only control what I do and how I react. Well, if I say this, then they may say this. Here's the different ways that they could react. Now, if they do this, how will I react in each scenario? Because remember, you can only control how you react. So when you go into a situation, you're stepping into your intentions, and what you don't want to spend too much time on is simulating the outcome that you don't want to have. Now, it's not that you don't run through it. If you run through that simulation in your mind, you're running through it to still get a favorable outcome. But don't spend too much time using your imagination on negative things, because you're programming a negative future. You're doing negative time program, right? And so as a people, if we're living a life where our music is talking about the past, our music is talking about the present. So if you listen to street music, Future don't talk about the future. Future talks about the present and the past. Future would talk about the streets on how they are. He would talk about memories of dead ones, loved ones, trauma, right? And he reflects on that. Or he talks about partying, having a good time in the now, spending it all right now, enjoying it all right now, living in the now. Future music is on everything but the future. Because unfortunately, Future is not a futurist. So when listening to that music, it's entraining us into a state to take actions that only have immediate consequence. What I'm wearing right now, what I'm thinking right now, who I'm with right now, how I feel right now. Or reflecting on the past of what I've been through, who I lost, where I came from. But not what I want it to be, what I'm projecting, what are my aspirations, what do I want to see next? So that's when you get an Andre 3000 who may be a futurist who talks about alternative realities, who breaks the pattern of the mundane. It's not just about where I came from, it's about what I want to see. So a people that's listening to anti-futurist music is stuck in a frequency of the present and the past. Now let's go into, so in order to break that, build a routine and a ritual and an environment that projects you into the future, that has you thinking about ideas and who you want to be, that simulates you into another timeline, but that is actually productive and progressive, not distractive and busy. Because an anti-futurist culture is a culture that distracts you from building, preparing, or producing a future while simultaneously making you feel busy or progressive. So if we're looking at the movies we watch, the Caucasian man, the Asian man, all of them, Bollywood, they live in the future a lot. I mean, a lot. They get to always see themselves in the future. All these futuristic movies where white people are in the future and then the main character, and it's about them. I mean, I just watched this movie. I watched this movie, Avatar. And I was watching that movie, man, and I see a lot of people talking about the movie and how, of course, it's exploitation. It's exploitation because it's taking stories of indigenous people and there's only white characters for the most part playing those people, and there's no Africans, right, playing the roles that is based upon their stories. But I digress because ancient people were blue black. You understand me? But when I was really thinking about it beyond that, I thought about something important. I said, James Cameron, the director of this film, he gets to experience something that no black person has ever got to experience. And this is what it must feel like to be a white man in this world, in this timeline, I should say. He gets to just create a world where you know you have so much power and privilege that it's normal for you to do this. That you can take the stories of ancient indigenous and native people. You can cast people who look like you white men to play in these stories. No dark skinned black people at all. No black people at all. Maybe an Afro Latina, but no black people. No Africans. And I start thinking of what it must be like to be a white man and to have the audacity to just do whatever you want. Like, can you imagine what it'd be like if me as a black man, I took the story of Napoleon Hill and I just casted me a black man and built a whole world where it's his story, but all of them are black. If I took a story of the Vikings and I made all the Vikings black, no white man in sight, then I make billions off the film and I live an incredibly good life. And all the blacks are going to go see it. They're going to complain, which also produced more traffic to my movie. Why? Because the way I built the world in that movie is the same way the world was built for me. It was built for me and my imagination to thrive. That I don't even have to come up with my own storylines. I can just steal it from other people and get wealthy and rich. There's no black man on the planet that has that privilege, that he can get greenlit hundreds of millions and billions of dollars to create films about other people without even casting them into the film. It's a different level of reality that we may never even understand the experience of what it's like to be a white man, to just build your own world and that to be normal. We have never had the privilege of stealing from other people, stealing their stories and playing their roles. And even if we could, we wouldn't want to because we have our own stories. And it's the stories that they stole. But man, that's a magnificent privilege to just say that I can do whatever I want. I can just build me a world based on other people and I can walk around here like it's normal. That's a level of privilege that it's hard for us to even wrap our mind around because we can barely even greenlight a film about ourselves. I mean, we were so happy that Sinners was even made. And one of the greatest futurists moment in cinema history when the people were dancing to the music and they were showing how music blends time. And he was, as he was saying it, we were experiencing it. That to me is one of my top five, top three moments in cinematic history. Because not only did that movie reframe the past, it projected us into a future at the same time. It took us out of that past. We survived. We killed the Klan. We moved forward into the future where we're still alive. Do you understand the psychology that went into the development of that film? The psychology that went into the imagination in Black Panther. We have to be very grateful for our brother, Ryan Coogler, because he is really invested into feeding the imagination of the diaspora. So, number one, your environment matters. Your feed matters. Are you feeding your mind fear or are you feeding your mind future? Because fear stops the future, it kills the possibility. And when we're on the timeline, and every single day I'm on the timeline, and even I wrote a book about, you know, creating content and the content thesis and how to create more and consume less, because while you're consuming, it takes away the brain that produces output because you're stuck on input mode. So when it's time for you to produce output, you have no thought because your mind is now stuck in immediate reaction survival time. In the present is the only time we have that is real to project the future. So if your present is distracted, you are now cut off from the future. So all the possibilities that you could imagine that you could be, you would never get to know. So you would never develop the concept, the consciousness, because you would never be even aware of the possibilities because you're distracted in the present. And the goal of the devil has always been to distract God's people. The most powerful thing in the world is a focused black man. So simulate the future. Think about the possibilities. Stimulate your imagination. Write down what you want to be. Forget the rules of what are. Don't think based on your resources. Think based on your imagination. Because when we live by the limitations of our sight, so what we see, we believe. What about what we can visualize? What about what we can imagine? Imagination is the truest freedom on the planet. Because in imagination, there are no rules, there's no restrictions, there's no borders, there's no limitations. And then we match the imagination with the reality. Because who could have imagined that Elon Musk would be becoming a trillionaire with robot armies, electrical vehicles, spaceships, and have it all funded merely by the government? Took a hell of imagination. Can't tell me what's not possible. Futurism is very powerful. You just have to have the audacity to believe it. And then you have to develop the capacity to achieve it.
Appreciate that, brother.
No problem.
Please, God.
Thank you for the great question. I always take one of the good sisters in here.
Hey, family. Hey, Mr. Keys. How you doing?
Man, I'm magnificent. How you doing?
I'm good. Y'all listening to your sister Alana. Amazing conversation. Y'all actually hit on a lot of the points. Some inquiries I was going to ask, but I guess something that's still lingering for me is this idea that you're talking about circle and community and being minded. I came in on that part, or I joined on that part, joined the panel on that part. I guess my question for you is like how to approach establishing the community, because I'm starting to feel like I don't know how it's gonna sound, but I'm starting to feel like kind of outgrowing my current circle, and I want to be able to put myself in new spaces and around new people, but also be very aware of how I'm doing it and intentional. Because it's like I am seeking some form of mentorship, but I'm also seeking like support and friendship. So, and then also my second follow up to that is like maybe a good book I could probably that you might suggest for my mindset as I expand because I am operating in my gifts and my gifts has made room for me, and so now I want to be able to expand.
Yes, that's a great question, and I thank you for that question. Um, Community and outgrowing a community or a current circle or a group, it's always a good thing. Some people slow themselves down because they don't want to run too fast, you know. And the reason they don't run too fast is they don't want to leave everybody else behind. It happens in family a lot, right? People that we love, you know what I mean? We want to take them with us, and then we realize that they holding us back. Friends that we love, but they want to keep doing the same thing. They stuck in the present and the past. They're not going into the future that we're projecting that we see for ourselves. And so outgrowing any circumstance is always a beautiful thing. And you have to take time to mourn your old self and mourn your old life. And it doesn't mean that you can't keep in touch with some people, but you have to realize the separation between who you are, right, and who you were. And you have to make sure that you're not feeling guilty about your growth because, a lot of times when growing up in poverty, it's a very crazy place because you're stuck in survival mode. And when you're no longer stuck in survival mode, you start feeling guilty because there's so many other people who are. Their conversation is in survival mode. Their mind is in survival mode. Their timeline is in survival mode. Their money is in survival mode. The relationship is in survival mode. So everything they're doing is just a reaction of that survival, right, mentality that they're in. And you try to do your best to help while consistently elevating yourself. And you showcase an example, you go back to give back, right? But you never let nothing hold you back, right? And oftentimes we're taught a lot of times to stay in the same environment that held us down and try to see if we can bring that environment up. And that works for the people who are actually good at doing that, number one. It doesn't work for everybody because some environments just pull us back down and they burn us out to the point to where we actually cannot help anyone else and you become jaded in life. So when you're talking about community, right, the number one way to build community is through enemies. What is it that you oppose heavily in life that you can connect with other people about? Because sometimes we try to connect with with community, and we're trying to find our tribe of people that we can build with along the journey, right? But I find that the friends that I have, the community that I have the most is because we have the same enemies. And when we have the same enemies, you end up finding people that are so much alike you. And y'all have a bond, y'all have alignment. And of course, you can still build on the other things that you have in common as well. But it's a very strong thing that bonds people and brings them together. So when you know your values, you get to know your enemy because it's the enemy of those values. And that means oftentimes when you share the same enemy, you share the same values. So you start building community around that. And you start fostering deeper relationships because y'all now are on the journey to destroy that enemy together, to oppose that enemy together. Y'all are in it together. So community can be built in a lot of different ways, right? It can be built in person. It can be built online, but it always has to be intentional. It has to be intentional, right? And if we're talking about community from a grassroots level, a lot of that is looking out for people, having no expectation, right? Doing for the community, showing up for them, understanding how capitalism has robbed of us community and turned everything into a commodity. But we also have to give back because we are trying to burn out people that have good hearts because they would do things for us for free, but then they will struggle. And you should never want the person that is helping you to struggle. And so what I've seen is that the community has not taken enough responsibility to make sure that the leader does not struggle as well. While the leader is looking out for themselves, the community is looking out for themselves. But it has to be a harmonious relationship. Otherwise, one burns out the other. Extraction from the community, right? Without benefiting that community greatly. And then extraction from the leader without benefiting that leader as well. So you have to be careful that you make sure that there's a symbiotic relationship as you're community building, and you're making sure that there's reciprocation in all these things. Because as I build my community, I want it to be a close, tighter inner circle of thought leaders, of futurists, of creators. And so I think that's very important. Find your tribe, stick with them, invest in them, sponsor them, mentor each other. Like when I say sponsor, your community should be a protection network. It's a network that protects each other in all situations and circumstances. You should feel that you are backed, right, divinely because your community got you. And then in that community is great for your mental health because your community reminds you of who you are. When you get lost, they remind you of memories attached to self. They remind you of ideas of things you want to do. A community is the greatest reminder to an identity. And most of the time, people that are losing themselves is because they're around things that don't remind them of themselves. Don't remind you of your values. Don't remind you of your enemies. Nah, when I'm around people who are like me, man, we talk about our enemy. We talk about our values. We have conversations that are connected to my identity, and it's flow. It feels effortless because it's all meaningful to me. So my brain wants to have these deep level conversations because now I can make connections and it feels stimulating. But we get a lot of small talk around communities that ain't about nothing. And that small talk has a cognitive tax to it. So because our brain is always trying to put things into two different categories. Meaningful or meaningless. And if it's meaningless, it say, damn, you're going to need a lot more discipline to sit here and listen to this. You work in a job that don't mean nothing for you. Ooh, you have to use a lot of willpower to stay there. And we can fool ourselves for so long, but we end up burning ourselves out. So be where you need to be. You understand me? And be in a community that you're not just practicing extraction from, but there's a reciprocal process to where there's give, there's receive, and that is required. Because you don't give to receive, but every time you give, you should receive, even if it's not immediate, even if it's just gratitude, even if it's just energetically. Nobody likes giving to a place that's ungrateful. I don't care who you are and what their situation is. I get to a homeless man and he snatched my money, he don't say nothing. And somebody that's in full mental health, I'm gonna feel like, damn, I wish I never gave it to him. But you can still have it because it had nothing to do with you. I'll give it. But when there's somebody you do give it to and they say, thank you, and they just have a level of appreciation, makes you want to give more and more and more and more. So you just have to be careful about where you're putting your energy to, right? And the reciprocation, are you receiving a grateful energy back? All right, y'all, we have been on here. First of all, I want to thank Dana Perry with the super chat, man. She put up 100. It says, thank you for the teachings and knowledge. May Allah keep blessing you. I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for me. I was fully unintended to go 2 hours, but this is what happens. This is what happens. For those who don't know, I teach a lot of things. One of them is, strategies on how to become a greater creator and the thesis around that and the processes that one can use to monetize their gifts and turn that into, a life worth living, a life worth of impact. So every year I write a book, and this is my thesis towards content creation and content as creation, not just content as like posts and things of that nature, but the mindset behind it, the strategies behind it, the real application, the things that you can do, the steps behind it, the tools that you can use. And I believe that if people follow these principles and these tools, right, within the first 60 to 90 days, you should see results that you can utilize to start building out your foundation. Now, we're going to do a webinar. It's going to be 3 hours. You're going to be able to come in, build out a plan, right, for the first 90 days, right, and then have a plan of execution for those 90 days as well, right? A lot of things are changing for 2026 as far as the way you should go about building content. Authenticity is in, performance is out, right? There's a platform on social media that made $4 million just using AI. It's on YouTube channel. $4 million to date, just AI videos. So what happens when you learn how to create these things and you say, well, I'm not a person that likes to be in the front. You can look at these things as AI slop, or you can use these things as time opportunities. You may want to be somebody that has a business, but you don't know how to create content, right? And you're tired of trying to keep up with the things that are constantly changing. That's why we're going to be creating an inner circle group as well for that. We have an inner circle group that's going to be for AI, building apps development. And we have one that's going to be for trading every single day, waking up, trading, making money. And then we have one that's going to be for webinars monthly, right, in different categories. So I've now got myself to a point of consistency that I've never been to before, which is why I started waking up every single morning and I started doing these, because I wanted to prove that when I build my community out, I can be consistent privately. So when I do it privately, it's going to take time from doing these things publicly, but privately we'll be able to build with the people behind the scenes at an elite level. So elite mindset coaching, there was a brother that came in and he wanted to reach going from 25K to 50K. It is for people like that, right? People that want to be more productive and people that want to perform more, people that don't want to be lost, that want to have a great community, that want to have clarity, that are looking to have strategies, right, on what to do, people that they can ask for a mentorship, some guidance. I'm now opening myself for that 2026. 2025 was all about community. I put up my own money, right? Me and my team, we traveled around the world. I met you, my brother Steve, you understand me, my brother Antoine Digital, and a bunch of other people. They traveled, and we served the people. We served the people throughout the U.S. We went to Amsterdam, Birmingham, London, Ghana, Uganda, and all throughout the states. We did free coffee houses, lectures. It was all community building on our dime, right? With at the time with no sponsors. So that means that's just full investment into teaching the people on a massive scale. And what you realize when you do that is that, the energy, the moment, it comes and it goes, which is great. Spending those 3 hours with the people, it was entertaining. We had singers. We had people that was doing cryotherapy at some of them. We had entertainers, people that was rapping. We had guest lecturers. It was an amazing event. Poets, the whole nine. It was a vibe. It was a very renaissance. Sometimes we had jazz players, the whole nine. It was crazy. You definitely should have came. And now I'm at this point where I really want to be invested in the growth of others. I have a platform. I have access. We had a young man that we put on different stages that he was able to grow his platform and get opportunities and things of that nature, to have an audience, right, to sell his offers and pitches to. I want to really see, right, a much smaller inner circle that you have that you can go into 2026 with and build, right? That's what we build. And we build out Zion, a digital nation platform. If you're not a member of Zion, everything eventually will exist. I will get rid of all other platforms. School is still there, but I'll be getting rid of school. I'll be getting rid of um, even doing a lot less on YouTube, even though I'm gonna be doing a lot more on YouTube. Oxymoron. I'm gonna have a show on here, but a lot of stuff will be behind the scenes, right? And it will just only be available on the Zion platform. We will be doing a lot more short form on here because I want to master short form on social, and that will be a funnel to the real community and a real platform because I really want to help people grow, right? Become better communicators, more confident, right? Become greater thought leaders, futurists, right? Entrepreneurs, strategists, and most important, elite level, right? Thinkers. As elite mindset coach to help you train your mind and think at the highest level. And so you get more clarity in your life, you get greater capacity in your life. I'm really interested in people who really want to reach a higher level of performance in life, right? And who ready to make that investment into themselves. So I said all of that for those who, and this is going to be something that is going to be requiring a real investment into you. So it won't be for everyone. But we do have some smaller things for people to be able to engage in. We have a webinar that's coming up that's all about your content strategies for the first 90 days, right? How to monetize, pay your bills, and build your platform and utilizing these social media strategies, platform AI, right? And this mindset that goes behind it so that you can perform every single day consistently, right? We want to knock your bills out so that you can have the ability to be free time wise and you can have the clarity to think without stress, right? So, number one, for those who want to be a part of this first webinar, and I promise you, it will be way more than you could ever pay for. So I'm not going to oversell that. It is, you get this Content Keys book. This is a new book. It's actually two. It's a bonus book that comes along with that. And then once you join the challenge, you're also going to get access to all our teachers and courses that we've ever taught, which involves crypto, gold, tokenomics, which is the study of crypto and how to actually get into it, to search it for yourself. Um, go ahead and pause that for me, Tashi. And then we have how to write a book in a few weeks. So for those who don't know, I've made thousands of authors teaching them my strategies before there was AI. And I think those strategies still work today now that we have AI because it makes that much easier. And then we have what's inside of there? There's so much. We have our AI mastery class that's inside, the one that we taught the first time that allowed people to build some 6 to 7 figure businesses, create 4 AI companies, just understanding AI where it's at. And where you want to start at, if you get into that, is the mind of keys, which is the learning how to learn. That is the first step you want to get into. It's key, it's basic of how to start learning faster and actually learning these concepts because a lot of stuff will be changing very fast, right? Anyway, I'm not gonna oversell it. It's a lot inside of that. So if you jump into the book challenge, you'll get all the access to all those things for a bonus. This is going to immediately give you access to the book, and then we're going to send you an email that is going to give you access to the webinar as well, which is going to be 3 hours. And then we're going to get a short Q&A as well so we can give you direct value on your business strategies you should be taking to implement in 2026 so that you can reach 6-7 figures in your business. As somebody who has mastered the game of content, right, and who has used this to travel around the world, right, and build 7 to even, I ain't even gonna go into all my accolades, man. Y'all know what it is. All you do is scan this one right here. It's 100 slots for that one. And then for those who just want the book, you can grab the book right here. You can get all of the strategies that are in Content Keys. For those who are watching this on Twitter, you all probably can't see this, of course. It's on Instagram. And I'm going to see if I can drop it in the comments so that you all can get the link as well. So first I'm going to drop the link for the book. You get the book before it sells out. Once the book is sold out, it will not be on site ever again. That's how I do at the beginning of the year. You can be mad at me, or you could have been a part of what we were building in the beginning. It's up to you. I do not force people to make change. I'm trying to help you live a life to where you don't have to force it. Boom. Let me see. Say character limit reach. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all some time to scan that. Grab your books. Once you grab your book, drop a one in the chat. I see Bradley got his now. I just got a notification. You ain't playing. So we got a bunch of people that just jumped into the challenge. All right. Now I want to put that here for my Twitter folks. There we go. Boom. I'll drop it in Instagram as well. I don't know how to drop a link on TikTok. I'm not sure there's a way to do that because, you know, TikTok don't want you to go outside of the platform. And then I'm going to drop it in the comments for all those that's asking on TikTok. All right. The book link is disappearing. Going back to the webinar. So instead of the 444, we let you get in at the 100. And that's it. That's all I have for you. I'm not going to spend no time selling it. I'm not going to spend no time doing nothing else. I'm being very intentional because I want to be able to say I gave people opportunity and they didn't take it. And so when you see higher prices and stuff, you can't be mad at me. I can say I woke up every single day and tried to give away information. And then when you see people joining in and paying $5,000, $10,000, you'll be like, man, he outpriced us. Why I can't? Because for the price that you go spend going out tonight or Uber ride, you know what I mean, or a drink or a blunt, you decide not to invest in yourself. And I am just in a space to where I only want to be around people who do want to invest in themselves. You know, thank you, Divinely Nisi. I appreciate that. You said we are evolving, learning our limits, balancing responsibility, returning to softness. Surah al-Baqarah. A lot is not buried in a soul beyond what it can bear. Thank you for your guidance and leadership. Thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Young OG, man, just click on the link for the book and you'll be surprised. All right. So we got a bunch of things that we're going to grandfather people in. If you ever been a part of anything that I do, you know that there's always way more value than what you could possibly pay. But I will tell you this year, I'm just in a whole new space with things, man. You know, I need to get all that I came for, and I know my value. Like, if I can get paid to stand on the stage, get paid $50,000 to speak on the stage, I understand my value. The goal is to now get paid up to $100,000. And a lot of people, they say, man, that's a lot. You know, but what's a lot? You know, the type of value that I provide, I might sit here for 2.5 hours, and because y'all get access to it, y'all might really think, you know, and you think of these things in capacity of others, right? Comparatively, oh, well, this is just content. People don't do what I do for a reason because they understand the value of it. I remember I got paid to go speak in one place. The people was paying me like 25K, and it was like 30 minutes just to be on a quick little panel. And this is when I'll start changing my value because they was like, bro, you gave more value than anybody we've ever hired that ever came to our organization. And this is a $100+ million organization. And they said, man, we've never had anybody come up here and actually teach, speak, give formula, strategy, psychology, history, like the way you broke things down. You gave enormous and massive value. We have people come up here, they be motivational, but they don't have no depth. And he said, if you would have put together your pitch to us the right way, we probably would have paid you $100,000. And they were dead serious, you know. And I had to reevaluate my own value because sometimes we start connecting our morality to right things. Well, oh, I just want to do it. That doesn't mean you should get paid less for it, right? So charge what you're worth, but then also have entryway for people who's just getting started. So I've done that. I've done my part. That's what 2025 is about. It's not going to be acting different. It's going to be acting my wage, acting my wealth wage, acting my value, you know. So when the access is not there, yes, you can go try to find it somewhere on the internet. It's not the same. And the thing about it is that we spend too much time on this internet, but not enough time actually executing. And so we get confused because we are confusing access and information, right? And what I've learned by sitting in circles, and I know friends who spend $45,000 to go to an event. I had a friend that I know spent $100,000 to go to a Tony Robbins event. And when he left that event, you know what he told me? He said, Keys, it was worth it. I said, damn, $100,000 was worth it? It was worth it. I said, man, maybe I may be charging a little less. But then he talked to me, he said, man, the type of information you give, you be breaking stuff down, same information he giving. And I started thinking like, damn, I feel people have been guilting me into not charging my worth, not even going for the higher clientele. I have the top 1% people in the world that tap into me and make over $300-400 million, and the value is not their money because people know that a lot of the relationships that I have now in my life is all about value and alignment. Because if I think you're a buster, don't matter if you're $1 billion buster, you're a buster. You know what I'm saying? But I want people to take that as a lesson as well. Like, charge your value, whatever it is. Time is very finite. We could die tomorrow. I don't want to die, number one, doing things that's meaningless, and I don't want to die penniless. I want all mine while I'm living. So therefore, I have something to pass on to those who are no longer. I mean, for when I am no longer here. So I'm going to find my tribe. For those who asked for the $44 bundle, I just seen somebody put it there. That is the Save Yourself bundle. But because I am not right now promoting that, you can get it, but that's not what I'm promoting. I am only right now talking about the what you call it. But I'm also done. If you want to tap in, tap in. I'm very nonchalant with everything kind of now. We about to have a beautiful day. I hope y'all have a blessing. Fellas, go do some goddamn push-ups. You understand me? Don't go into 2026 with a bird chest. And don't be making resolutions, you feel me, without systems. Systems is the thinking of the future. So I look forward to building with y'all another time. Make sure you go to acesupermind.com if you want to support our new endeavor, Supermind. Look at this. It looks beautiful. Put that in there. Look at that. Look at that. My favorite. Keeps me going. That's why I can just wake up, do 2-3 hours and just be in flow mode, man. I'm telling you, lion's mane every day, cordyceps every day, right? It helps keep that brain boosted, help keep that brain flowing, help keep that brain going, give you a cognitive boost every single morning. Then we have our cognitive tea, and that tea is adaptogenic. So nootropic is lion's mane cordyceps, things that boost the brain, right? Focus, memory, retention. Adaptogenic are things that help deal with stress. So when you're drinking teas, the teas is for that stress, right? So after 12, we get a cortisol spike, right? And so that's why you want to be drinking your teas because that adaptogens help you stay in flow without being stressed out. So we have our coffee in the morning, we have our tea in the afternoon. And we want to have it in the morning because coffee has a half-life. So that means half of it out your system by 5 o'clock if you stop drinking it at 12. And then the rest should be out your system by 10 o'clock. So therefore, it doesn't affect your melatonin production when it's time for you to go to sleep. So we got it down to a science. It's all about routines and rituals. What are your routines and your rituals that will allow you to be successful going into 2026? That's what we should be thinking about. Peace to the family. Peace to the guys. I'm 19 Keys. This has been your last Coffee with Keys. You know what I'm talking about? So please enjoy it and please support the brand. Go to asupermind.com and grab yours. And use the promo code SUPER to get, I think it's 15% off. Promo